Members of council?
Yeah, that's right, too. Right? Yeah.
Good evening, members of council, staff. I see that we have quorum, and gentlemen, see that we have quorum for our regular meeting of Committee of the Whole for February 1st, 2016. No, it's not February 2nd yet. February 1st, and I call this meeting to order. It has been moved by Councilor Rybyak that the agenda for this meeting be adopted as circulated. There was an item that was added from council, and I would look for a councillor to add it here now, and that's regarding the report regarding the cultural committee. So moved by Councilor Rybyak that be added under 562. Call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment carries. And now to the main motion. Are there any further amendments? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried as amended. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. That is any conflicts of interest that any members of council may have. Do any members have any conflicts? There are no conflicts. Can that be so noted in the minutes? Now we move to department reports, community planning and development. It's been moved by Councillor King that Committee of the Whole receives the issue summary report for information as it pertains to the application file number AM0815 regarding 311 Chandler Road, and the committee direct planning staff to prepare the bylaw to amend the portion of lands located on the north side of Chandler Road, west of Effingham Street, municipally known as 311 Chandler Road, from agricultural A to a site-specific agricultural A zone, indicating the agricultural purposes only, APO, in perpetuity, and the council approved the zoning bylaw amendment. Questions or comments regarding this? This is almost becoming a bit standard, and very pleased that this is an option for the community. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Similar item is the next one, I believe. It's been moved by Councillor Durley that Committee of the Whole receives the issue summary report for information as it pertains to application file number AM0615 regarding 330 Foss Road, and the committee direct planning staff to prepare the bylaw to amend the portion of land located on the south side of Foss Road, west of Effingham Street, municipally known as 330 Foss Road, from agricultural A to a site-specific agricultural zone, A zone, indicating agricultural purposes only, APO, in perpetuity, and the council approved the zoning bylaw amendment. Questions or comments? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Another planning report. It's been moved by Councillor Durley that Committee of the Whole receives the issue summary report for information as it pertains to application file number AM1015 regarding 130 Highway 20 East, part lot 161 and 166, Plan 717. The committee direct planning staff to prepare the bylaw to amend bylaw 3543 2014 in regards to the East Fonthill mixed use 1 EFMU1 zone to amend section 2.1.0 II to state retail commercial uses including retail stores, restaurants, and personal services with gross leasable floor areas greater than 150 meters, which is 1,615 square feet per business, and retail commercial uses including retail stores, restaurants, and personal services with gross leasable floor areas between 100 meters squared, which is 1,076 square feet, and 150 meters squared, which is that 1,614 square feet per business, are permitted up to a maximum of 18% of the total leasable floor area per lot. In addition, to adjust the boundary between the East Fonthill mixed-use 1 EFMU1 zone and the East Fonthill open space EFOS zone, and the council approved the zoning bylaw amendment. Questions or comments? Councillor Kersey.
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, through you to our planning director, compliments to planning staff for dealing with this matter very expeditiously. Sometimes in the commercial world, you snooze, you lose. And so I know that they had some potential tenants out there and needed to get an answer on this, and I'm pleased to see this comes forward as quickly as it did. And I certainly will support this. I think it will provide an excellent mix in the new development out there without having a significant impact in the downtown core. In fact, will complement it. And you heard tonight from the regional planning staff that people go to communities that offer a wide variety of services. And having smaller square footages in that plaza will allow the delivery of those complementary services to the community we're looking to develop there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Kersey, for your comments, and kudos to staff as well. Other questions or comments? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we have the planning report has been moved by Councillor Kersey. The committee of the whole receive the combined December 2015 and January 2016 Planning and Development Services report for information. Questions, comments? Very comprehensive report. Kudos to staff. Those numbers for, this is similar to the Councillor Kersey's comment about how quickly staff turned this particular application around. Average days, number of days to issue a permit, 4. That's amazing. And number of permits issued, 28. Used to be sort of over the 10 days. And now we're at 9 or 10 or 11. So now it's, they get in there, that's great. Congratulations to staff and, as I call her, the expediter. Even as well for small buildings, there are a few of those. 15 days is what's allowed. Average number of days, 12. So that's great. And nice to see that some additional building activity occurred even over the last couple of years in the month of January for this year. Other councillors? I would ask, I don't see it here in the report, Madam Director, so next report, I know it's in the budget, but could you report on just sort of progress with East Fenwick Secondary Plan, if you don't mind? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call the question. Councillor Kersey, did you have something?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question. If we could get some statistics on year over year. It's interesting to see it graphically represented, but I wondered whether we could get a year over year actual hard numbers, number of housing starts, total value of construction, and do a comparative between the 2 years. Because it'd be interesting to follow the trend to see what's happening in the development areas of our community as we go forward through 2016.
So, Councillor, you're talking about building permits, is that correct?
Yeah.
So the graph that's on page 2 here, that's a month by month. You're looking sort of to see it broken out a little bit more.
I just want to see total aggregate numbers.
Yeah. So that's not the next graph below it? I'm sorry.
Maybe I'm misreading it.
Go back one. Was that
A bar graph, is that what you want?
No,
Or
I
is
have the
it-
bar graph, but total number of housing starts, total construction, total number of square footage in terms of commercial space, total value of all construction undertaken in the community. I don't think we have that represented here, do we, Madam Director?
Madam Director, can you assist the councillor, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, through you. We don't have that information graphically represented. Certainly, the pie chart is giving you the permits in terms of year-to-date, and then the bar graph gives us the aggregate of the permits on a monthly basis, and we have 2 year or 3 years worth of permits that we can see in terms of the various trends across the years. But information such as the value and square footage and those kind of things, we don't have that, so we can put that together.
Okay, thank you.
That'd be great, thanks.
All right, thank you. Anything further? Look forward to that information as staff put that together. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak. The Committee of the Whole received the January 2016 Corporate Services Monthly Report for information. Questions for the Director? I'm sorry, Councillor Ribbiak, you had to
Thank you.
wave a little bit more, I guess. Sorry, I didn't see you initially.
Well, I'm so shy, I just
You're
want
so
to
small,
shrink
huh?
back into the chair. I have a question, Mr. Mayor, through you, with regard to the Town of Pelham website, and just perhaps some indication of when the development work will be completed. I know that there are pages that I look for, and I can't reach them yet. We get a message that says that it's under construction and we'll get there. So I'm just wondering when that's planned.
I don't know if, is it under this report or this, the CEO's report?
I'm talking about 6, the content on the Town of Pelham's website has been updated, in some cases located.
you.
So I'm following the question now.
Answer that, or does our manager of
Mr. Mayor.
communications?
The content management system and the website update went live on Friday, the 22nd, through a soft launch in-house. We are still in the process of making sure all the links that were on the previous website are connected properly, so each admin and each department is going through their sections. We did 95% of the links, and now we're just making sure that those last 5% of them are connected. Also on that, there is some information that now is under a different menu because it made more logical sense to be there. So if you are missing any information, you can contact Anna and she can let you know exactly where it is. Anna. And then she'll be able to
Okay.
help you with it. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think also the how might we help you is a nice, easy way to just type it in and there it is and you find out where it is. But I'd encourage the councillor to perhaps talk to Ms. McKnight. Does that help, councillor?
I may wait until I speak with Ms. McKnight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else to that issue? Anyone else to other issues in the report? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very quickly, through you, I wanted to have the treasurer comment on the capital asset management plan and when and what role she envisions the council playing in the asset management plan and the policy development around the use of the asset management plan and all of those sort of nitty-gritty issues. I know we're in the development stage, but when will we start to see it and use it and be involved in it?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I would have loved it to be as progressive as I was anticipating and be done by December. However, the consultant firm that we've hired for the 3D inventory, the process of doing that 3D inventory takes months. They're anticipating early spring for the first part of it, and then late spring to finish up the drive through the town that was approved as part of the capital budget. It'll be at that time we start bringing stuff to council and developing the policy around it and what that capital asset management plan looks like and finalizing details of it then. So you'll start hearing more now. They're now in the weeds with the data that we have in house. Once they finish all of that and put it in a structured format, they're going to go out and do the next round of asset management. So I will bring an updated report to council on that at the time. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Madam Treasurer, thank you very much for including information on the financial information on the total rewards program. Very interesting. You said this at the budget time period, but that change regarding the vacation entitlement and the hours for managers and directors from 35 to 40 hours per week came out to a net of $1,103. So thank you very much for putting that into the report. I think it's important for folks to understand that, and we look forward to additional information from the Human Resources Director on that in a few months' time. But the financial piece, I think, is very important for the community to understand. So thank you for that. The other question, I have a question, and that's regarding the problem meters, notification, leaks, etc. Seems to be up. Is there anything regarding that on your stats? Problem meters 70, leaks 155. Wow.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There are some occasions where the meters themselves start to cause problems in the system, and luckily our reporting catches those problems. So we're just being a little bit more diligent with the leak detection report and those backflow prevention reports, and expanding the scope of the days that they're going to be called out, so that residents may know about the leaking and deal with it, even if it's a small extended leak. We were typically just reaching out if it was a 15-day continuous leak, because that would send a signal that there's something in the system. And we're branching that down now to go out at possibly a 10-day leak when we have time, and just so they can check their systems. It could be toilet running and then it shuts off, but then the next time it's going to run again. So just doing a little bit more customer service with that.
Okay. I guess if you can monitor it, the worry is the meters themselves and whether they're functioning properly. That's the only thing I was worried about. So thank you very much for that. Anyone else on the treasurer's report? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. It's now been moved by Councillor King that council approves the front fence variance of 6 feet for the requested distance and location as outlined in attachment 1 along the north boundary line of a property starting 120 feet back from the front property line. Unfortunately, there's no property pieces in here. Perhaps we should have the appropriate resolution for that, Madam Treasurer. The motion, I presume, would have information regarding the property at 1237 Maple Street in Fenwick. And the report indicates that they're requesting a variance to the Town of Pelham's fence bylaw, which restricts the height of the fencing. So maybe that can be added to council approved variance for front fence variance for property at 1237 Maple Street. Comments or questions? Councilor Powell.
Just quickly, protocol, it says here the recommendation that council approves, but isn't it really that Cow is recommending approval for council, or, because anybody reading it?
That
reading
would be
into
the
this,
recommendation.
Right? Is that
Madam
right,
Clerk?
Madam Clerk? Because we're not really approving this, we're recommending it for approval, right? Right. I don't like to cut, but I don't want somebody to read this and say, oh, you approved this last night, you really didn't.
The committee of the whole recommended council that it approve a front fence variance at 1237 Maple
what I-
Street
yeah.
of
That-
6
that
feet,
answers the
4,
question.
etc.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. So we'll ask the clerk to fix that. Anything to the substance of the report, not the motion? Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe it's not exactly to the report, it's sort of a corollary to it. I wondered if our planning director could give us an update on the status of this draft plan. We're getting close to, or maybe past 3 years, and whether we're at the point where it has to come back for another approval or an extension.
Madam
Yes,
Director?
thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. This is in relation to the Oak Haven draft plan of subdivision. It's due to expire this August, I believe. It's sometime this summer. I may not have the date correct, but I think it's either July or August.
The OMB issue was June 27th, 2013.
Then it's June.
Thank you.
So, there is a new owner, with respect to this subdivision, so the property has, changed hands. Both myself and the Director of Public Works has met with the, new consultants that have been retained to clear the conditions of draft plan approval. Their goal is to, get this subdivision, approved, for final approval prior to the expiration of the draft plan, approval. So you'll see something coming forward sometime this spring on it. They've retained engineering consultants and planning consultants to move this project along.
Thank you.
So that's indeed good news for Fenwick, and
Yeah.
yeah, excellent to hear.
Okay, thank you. We're going to call the, unless there's anything else, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to the clerk kind of fine-tuning that recommendation. It's been moved by Councilor Durley, Committee of the Whole received the December 2015 and January 2016 Fire Services Report for information. Questions, comments for our Director of Fire and Bylaw Services, i.e. the Fire Chief, Councilor Papp?
Yeah, just quickly, I note in there 2 of our firefighters went to Texas for this training, and I guess one of them was top of his class. First question I have is, why are we going to Texas?
It's warm.
Is that because this fire training is only available there?
Chief?
Here, Mr. Mayor. Yes, twofold. It's actually the NFPA certifications are only available down there, and both firefighters paid for everything themselves.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Thank you.
Chief, NFPA is?
National Fire Protection Act.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Others?
Fires are bigger in Texas.
Okay, gentlemen, please. Okay, are we ready for calling the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Congratulations to those members of the fire service. The next item has been moved by Councillor Durley. The Committee of the Whole received the December 2015 and January 2016 Human Resources Department report for information. Questions, comments to our director? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our director. I just wondered, with respect to the voluntary terminations, do we do an exit interview? And, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, absolutely. I send an electronic exit survey, which allows us then to compare results, because we're using similar questions, and we can look for trends.
That was my next question. You led into it. Are we seeing any trends? Has there been any commentary with respect to the culture in our community, within the workings of our town hall?
For the voluntary leaves that we had, and unfortunately, I apologize, I don't have the information off the top of my head, but specifically I can reference that 2 out of the 4 that left voluntarily, let me just wanted to, voluntary was 6. If I may, just get back to you next week on that, because I don't want to speak out of turn, so I might be not getting all of my information, so I can get back to you on that.
And lastly, the percentage of turnover, do we have any way of comparing it to surrounding municipalities and to see where we fit in there and how we're trending?
Yes, absolutely, through you, Mr. Mayor. And we have done that, and right now we would still show substantially higher than our peers across the municipality. I apologize, and I hope this doesn't sound in any way disrespectful, but I think in a lot of these cases, the turn was necessary turn in order for us to move forward. I am confident now that our turn should greatly slow down, and we'll see the numbers come into line that we feel more comfortable with. I think we'll always have some turn, but I think this was a real year of change for us, and we needed to have some turn in order to get us moving in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, that's comforting to hear.
Okay, great, thank you. Any others? Councillor Papp?
Quickly through you, Mr. Mayor, that sometime in the future, questions were raised about the whole vacation package entitlement.
Yes.
And I would suggest, without getting into details, that maybe perhaps you could provide us with some samples and examples of them getting out of employees who are at 3, 5, 10, 15, so that the general public understands how this is going to impact, like how it works.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that, because
Okay.
I don't want people to misinterpret that, and maybe I just want examples of how this would impact.
Okay, and if I may, sorry, I'm just
Sure.
going to have to seek some clarity on that. 3, 5, and 10 years of,
I'm just using those as, so if I'm an employee with the town of Pelham, with
Yes.
this new policy, what would that translate itself into? I'm not really losing any vacation time, am I?
no.
Right? So, I'm asking for more clarification through a public eye.
Okay.
What it means.
And I would, right now, just like to sort of clarify that one-word answer that I gave you. What this really does is, again, what we were experiencing in the last 2 years at least, was that our vacational entitlements were so high to the point that we were unable to use all our
Right.
vacation. That, coupled with the 2 weeks that we were given for council and other committees we attend, that didn't seem like worthwhile compensation.
Right.
So the best thing that we could do was adjust that compensation piece and then say, you know what? We'd like to use the line, and it's slipping my mind, I'm sorry, Mr. CAO, do you recall what we were saying? With great responsibility should come greater rewards. And that's what we feel, you know what, at the level of leadership, should be at the point in our careers and as well as in our level of maturity to say, you know what, I can take vacation at this time. My department's running smoothly. So in the long run, what we're hoping to see is vacation taken is a reasonable amount, but we're also seeing our leaders take it when they need to take it, and then we're coming back and being more productive. So I have asked all of our leaders to not only provide me with vacation that they plan to take, but afterwards provide me with the vacation vacation days that they actually took, and I want to see how that balances off and what the impact to them and their department is.
Thank you. I look forward to that because I think there was some, I want to clear up some public misunderstanding of what this is all about.
Yes.
I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not
Okay.
going to get into details. So once this thing the whole thing unrolls at the end, we can see how it actually panned out and benefit.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Councillor. and
Mr.
I
Mayor, for your
presume that's-
latitude in that.
No, that's okay, and I think that's something that the director will include in her midterm and final term
That's what I'm looking
report on
for.
the pilot project. And it is, just want to repeat that was that financial piece as well that I spoke about
Yeah.
earlier, so.
That's correct.
But it all factors in.
ties together.
So, thank you very much for raising it. Any others? Thank you very much for including the performance results. Very interesting for 2015 and 2014. Are we ready for, oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Kersey. for
Thank you,
second
Mr.
time
Mayor,
on this.
for raising the performance results. I did want to comment on that, but I'm just wondering whether when you graph it the next time, if you reverse the bars so that you put the grading on the bottom and the numbers on the vertical, because that would then translate out into a bell curve.
Certainly,
And it will be much easier to see
yes,
where we're falling in terms of evaluation.
yes.
And then coupled with that, my question is, would the objective then be of the performance to move the mean or the median of that bell curve to the right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, would you like me to respond to that now?
Do you want to think about it?
I have a gut response, but I'll think about it, so I'll hold on that. Yeah, I know.
We'll leave it
Thank
at
you.
that.
I now understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That if it's, yeah, where is the pack and how does it compare? And really it lends itself, some of that's in the commentary as opposed to the graph. And I think there is an inherent assumption in the commentary that it should move one way or the other, but we'll let the director get back to us on that.
Thank you.
So thank you. Anything further? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Good commentary. Now, Councillor Kersey has moved that Committee of the Whole receive the issue summary report and approve the termination of the operating agreement with the region, unless still required for the SCADA monitoring and notification to the town, and take over the operation of the pumping station pending approval from the town's legal counsel. I would encourage the clerk to add a little bit more detail in terms of which pumping station, et cetera, when this comes back to council. I know we have a report on it, but questions or comments to the director? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, very quickly, a few weeks ago, we heard a report, and we've heard several reports now about the shortage of manpower and how we need more people to do the jobs that we already have. Are we taking on more than we can chew, or is this such a small function in terms of manpower that it's not going to have a material impact on the demands on our staff?
Madam Director?
Mr. Mayor, this is strictly supported by the water group, and the staffing in the water group at this time is well balanced, so we ran this through them to see what would be required. It's a monthly check-in. It becomes a little more onerous if there are problems, but we would be involved at that point anyways, whether it would be regional support or not, so it's not felt to be any more burden on the group.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Rivak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, are there other similar operations elsewhere in the town that is operated currently by the region that we might be thinking about, or is this a one-off in the town?
Mr. Mayor, this is the only water booster station that I'm aware of that we were in this agreement with. We have sewage pumping stations, but those are not on our radar to be taking back into our responsibility. Those would stay as they are now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks to staff for bringing this up. I remember having a conversation a few years ago with the treasurer and a former commissioner at Niagara Region regarding the fees for this, because they just kept creeping up and up and up and got very exorbitant, and they were negotiated down, but still it appears that they're too high for the work that's being done. So I appreciate you bringing it up. The piece is, I guess, with the committee's recommendation to council, it sounds like there may be, you're gonna study the agreement a little bit and see if the SCADA monitoring is still required, and maybe that part of the agreement will continue on, but the other part will be terminated. Is that how I can read this, Madam Director?
Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay.
I'm not sure, it's really not so much about studying the agreement as it is what the region's preference is.
Okay,
They have monitoring on their equipment, the phone line's installed, it's something that we wouldn't have to change anything, it's simply asking them to pick up the phone should they sense something wrong. If they want an agreement for that, then we would entertain it, if not, we could cease the whole thing.
okay, great. Thank you very much. Anything further? Gonna call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Kersey. The Committee of the Whole received the December 2015, January 2016 Public Works and Utilities Report for information. Questions, comments to the Director? I want to thank the Director for putting a looking back to 2015 in there, which I thought was wonderful. And information on Roland Road, that it will be done this spring. And even the pictures for some of the facilities changes. So I'm going to stop talking unless there's, and call the question if there's anything. There's no counselor has any questions, so thank you very much for the comprehensive report. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor King that Committee of the Whole received the December 2015, January 2016 Recreation, Culture and Wellness Department report for information. Questions, comments? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one question, and I brought this up to the director earlier, and I'm sure it's going to be a correction, but looking at the Pelham Marina ice activity comparison stats, December 2014 to December 2015, in the lines there, the hours of usage in 2015 were little over 7 hours more, and the revenue for that was $416 less. So, and I'm looking forward to a correction on that. I'm sure it might just be a typo or something like that, but that sort of jumped out at me as something irregular, and I'm sure there is an answer that will be coming forward in perhaps next month's report.
Ms. Van Ravensway.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I reviewed it briefly prior to the meeting, and it looks like it should have been one for Pelham Minor Hockey. The December 2015, it should have been 159.45 instead of 169.45, and then the numbers would have came out to be.
Correct.
I will.
I'll endeavor to get the
I
correct
will
numbers.
look at it tomorrow
Okay.
and report back.
Thank you. Maybe just an email to council. You'll be fine. Thank you. If that's all right, Councillor?
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else on the director's report? There being none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Next item has been moved by Councillor. Sorry, I need a mover for this. This is the Volunteer Culture Committee, moved by Councillor Papp. Thank you, Councillor. That we received the issue sheet regarding the implementation of Volunteer Culture Committee, and the committee recommended council support the establishment of a culture committee. So councillors will have to go back to your council report. Questions or comments? I thought that it should come to committee and not to council, and that there might be some questions. So questions from councillors? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A comment and then a question. I think this is a good initiative. This is something that was identified several years ago when we did the cultural master plan, and it's kind of sat on the shelf. So I think this is great to have this committee formed, and then this committee can take the initiative to start looking for, once the programs are developed, to look for grant monies for the implementation of our cultural master plan and sort of guide it along as we move forward on the journey. The question that I wanted to pose was, in many of our advisory committees, we have counselors sit in an ex officio manner, and I wondered whether that might be something that we'd like to add to the terms of reference.
Thank you. Councilors, adding a council rep to the terms. Ms. Van Ravensway, it's not included. Is there a reason why?
Mr. Mayor, the intention for year one was to have a call out for cultural interests and have roundtable discussions and be more organized in 2017, and at that time recommend a standing committee. We know that we have many cultural groups out there, and we may be missing some that we should be including, and I don't want to do that. That's why we've decided to go with it this way, although if council would like it to be a standing committee, that'd be wonderful.
Thank you. Questions, comments, Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but reports will be coming through minutes
Yeah.
coming to us, so we will be informed of progress that is being made by that committee, and again, if it's in the building stages, fact-finding, I guess, is the term that we like to use, and once that's all taken care of, in fact, if in administration it becomes necessary for a member of council to sit on, that I think would be the time to do it. But again, forming the committee now, we will be informed of progress made, so I think that's a good first step.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ribbiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too had noted that there was no counselor on this, but what I understand from our director is that this is meant to be kind of an initial or an interim committee. The terms of reference don't make any reference to that, and I'm just wondering whether they might be updated to indicate that this is meant to go for a year and come back with a recommendation with regard to how to set up something more permanent. I think that might be more appropriate for the purpose indicated.
Okay, thank you. I tend to agree. Ms. Van Ravensway?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can make the amendments and bring it back to council.
Okay. So can we just take that as everybody's understanding that this would be sort of an interim committee? Ms. Van Ravensway, are you thinking it's sort of like the formation of the Active Transportation Committee or the Seniors Committee? There's kind of a working group in each of those instances, one long ago and one a bit more recent, that kind of, even the Downtown Beautification Committee, that kind of came together, they met, they discussed, and then sort of recommended to council. Is that what you're recommending in this case as well?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. It's a committee that, it's more of a focus group right at the moment, and we will form it accordingly and report back monthly from the meetings, as well as towards the end of the year, we'll have a recommendation on where to go from there.
That's fine.
That's right.
Okay, so I'd encourage, maybe given that staff could just update the report. I don't know that we should necessarily do it right now, but in terms of a temporary working group to come back with a recommendation in a bit, in a year's time or so for council. And unless there's someone else, the big question I have or had was council approved a strategic plan last year, and we aligned all the committees with that plan, and I didn't review it, didn't go back to that strategic plan, but this committee never kind of populated at that point. So I'd be interested in knowing, I think it's there. Just want to know where it fits in with the strategic plan, and so that we might, and where these objectives fit in with the strategic plan, so that we might further advance our strategic objectives for the town. We took a lot of effort, council colleagues, as you'll recall, to try to make sure that all those committees, we changed them all, we did all that, and then want to make sure that this, if we're establishing some sort of new task force or group, that eventually, if they form some sort of standing committee, that it does meet the guidelines of the previous committees
Yep.
and the strategic plan.
Absolutely.
Ms. Van Ravensway?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did identify in the report that through the strategic plan, it was the feel like a small town, as well as provide the environment for our businesses to thrive. And we will amend the terms of reference to include that.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. Any further discussion? We look forward to those updates. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Junkin. The Committee of the Whole received the concept papers, civil marriage ceremonies and schedules thereto, and the clerk be directed to prepare the necessary bylaw to authorize and provide for marriage solemnization as outlined here in, did I say that right? Solemnization. Any discussion? No, just call the question. Councillor Ribiak. How do you say it again? Solemnization, okay.
Thank you. Give me just half a second to find it, having moved from one set of minutes to the other. It has taken me a moment, so just, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Come up with a better word. That's a legislative word, by the way, just so you know. The clerk has informed me. Councillor Ribiak.
I have a question. I'm sure it's just for clarification, but it's with regard to fees. There are fees apparently that the town receives, and there are fees that the officiant receives. Perhaps that can be explained?
Madam Clerk?
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. If a marriage ceremony is performed within regular office hours, all of the fees would be attributed to the town. But if an officiant is attending off hours to perform a marriage ceremony, whether it is the clerk or a designate, then a portion of the fees would be administrative to the town, and a portion would go to the officiant for the after hours. And we are working with the Finance Department or Corporate Services to ensure that that aligns with the HST requirements as well.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no particular objection to an employee of the town receiving a benefit for service that they provide kind of off hours. Just wondering about the consistency of the form of that with regard to other employees doing the things that they normally do in town, but after hours, and how it's compensated.
I'm not sure, Madam Clerk, can you just, is that how it would work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this was part of an extensive research throughout the province for municipalities that do provide this service, and this is standard as to how they structure the fees. So rather than, because it's a direct fee for service, it's not something that would be awarded as lieu time. It's a fee as the officiant for acting in that capacity.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you. I think I understand the concept. I'm going to mull it over in my mind, and if I have any further questions, I'll speak to the clerk directly and perhaps get some clarification. Thank you.
Others? We're not married to it right now because it's going to go to council. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Sorry. Just engaged to it. It's been moved by Councillor Junkin. The Committee of the Whole received the December 2015, January 2016 Clerk's Department report for information. Questions or comments? Exciting news about the business directory, so looking forward to that. I know, Councillor Papp, how many years ago did we work on
A long time.
work with dedicated staff on setting that up? So very pleased that there's newness there, and I think when that gets set up and relaunched, I think it would be important to go back to some of those initial partners, the Chamber of Commerce, the Pelham Business Association,
Yep.
and explain it to them, and it might be something that council representatives
Yep.
would want to present to those groups.
Happy to.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if maybe the clerk can continue to keep us updated on that.
Perfect.
Thank you. Anything further on the clerk's report? Thank you, Madam Clerk. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. It's been moved by Councillor Junkin that Committee of the Whole received the December 2015, January 2016 Chief Administrative Report for information. Questions or comments to Mr. Ottaway's report? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the CAO, mention again about the disagreement between the town and the region regarding DC charges along the Rice Road issue there. Is there any resolution in the foreseeable future?
Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had met with the region. The mayor participated in our last meeting that also included Commissioner of Planning, Commissioner of Public Works, and Ms. Means. So, yeah, we have an open discussion with them. I'm not sure what the outcome will be, but we're advocating the position that that turning lane on Rice Road is growth related and should be covered under the region's DC bylaw. It's in there. It's a minimal amount of money in the grand scheme of things, and we're pushing to have the region see it our way. So that's the best answer I can give at this time.
Is it a work in progress? Okay, thank you.
We do have another meeting, I think, this week.
That's correct.
And one of the outstanding issues, we did notify the region that one of the developments, they were asking that it be included. We just approved it at council. So they're aware of that, and they were actually looking, I was pleased with the meeting because they were looking at creative solutions, not in the sense of creative accounting or anything like that, but asking whether the road had to be designed a certain way and that would ease things up. So it is a work in progress, and I'm optimistic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Councillor Papp?
Very quickly, I'm very excited, Mr. CEO, about this public entry feature sign. And I can hardly wait to see this, especially after what we discussed earlier today. You talk about putting a moniker or setting the stage for that development and for our whole town. I'm curious, when do you think you'll be able to get that to us? I'd love to see that. All of us would love to see that.
The process for that is going to be to establish the evaluation committee. So the mayor and I and the director of Recreation, Culture, and Wellness met with a candidate today. So we've got one position that we need to fill. It would be a committee of about 5 people, all qualified artists, landscape architects, etc. They'll take a look at the 23 applicants that we received as far as qualified artists, and the intention is to shortlist to 3. Okay. The top 3 artists will be provided a modest stipend to develop their vision for a piece of art / gateway feature. And then there will be a yet to be determined public process. So we'll be using things like Place Speak. We'll probably have some sort of an exhibit space, perhaps in the lobby of Town Hall or the library, and we'll ask for public feedback. And then that committee will make a final recommendation that will come back to council, and council will have a chance to formally, you've already approved the dollars, but I guess to formally approve the piece to make sure that it's meets the expectation of what council's looking for. We're very excited about it. I can say that out of the 23 applicants, there are some very, very influential and well-known artists, and the applicants come from all over North America. So we're very flattered that we received such attention from such prestigious artists for this particular project.
Thank you. Others to that issue? Thank you, Mr. CAO. Others to other items in the CAO's report? We look forward to more information on that and other items. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
What's the guiding principle we could drive in here? Let's see what it's up to.
Been moved by Councillor Junkin that this regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for February 16th, 2016, unless sooner called by the mayor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
So the artist has to fabricate and install.
Thank you.
as part of the